today. Welcome back to the program. Uniseed, a venture fund operating with some of the leading universities in Australia, as well as the CSIRO, has announced a $500,000 investment digital health company, Cardihab. Cardihab specialises on cardiac rehabilitation, providing remote patient management following a cardiac event. Well, for more on the venture fund and some of their investments, I'm pleased to say we're joined by the CEO of Uniseed, Peter Devine. Peter, really appreciate your time this afternoon. Look, plenty to talk about, actually, but I just wanted to start with Uniseed itself. Can you just tell us about it, how it came to be, and the backers of it, the universities?
Yes, and thanks for having me. Uniseed evolved out of a need. A lot of university inventions tended to, get stuck in the university. They needed a little bit more money to take them to a stage where what we would say the traditional investment market would come in. So out of that need, initially 2 universities, Queensland and Melbourne, decided to put up their own money and start a fund to help move things out of those universities. And on the back of that, we've now expanded Uniseed to include the University of New South Wales, University of Sydney, and also most recently the CSIRO. So between those 5 organisations, we see about 40% of all the research that gets done in terms of spending in Australia.
And one of the big issues that's been put forward in the past, as it relates to, startups and the tech space here in Australia, is lots of great ideas and lots happening in the research space, but getting to that commercialisation part has been a bit of an issue. Is that where you guys hope to step in?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I guess we say our mandate is to help facilitate commercialisation at those organisations, but do it in a way that obviously we act under the commercial discipline of a fund. We're there to make good investment decisions and ultimately return money to the shareholders, which can then get recycled back into new investments. So fortunately, we've just finished our previous fund that did very well and had 3 very large exits as well as a number of smaller exits. And on the back of that, we were able to bring in the new partners, Sydney Uni and the CSIRO.
And look, can you tell us about your latest investment? Is it the 6th investment in Cardihab?
Yeah, this is so we started our new fund. It really got rolling early last year, and so to date we've done 6 investments. And Cardihab comes out of the CSIRO. It's if you like, an online portal that connects cardiologists to their patients. And the big problem has been that it's well known that if patients undertake cardiac rehabilitation after a cardiac event, they have firstly a much lower rate of hospital readmissions, but also a much better chance of not having another heart attack. The problem's been that it's difficult for patients sometimes to do that because they've had to travel long distances to the hospital, and there's cost and inconvenience factors with that. So through Cardihab, we've developed an application that allows the patients through their iPhone or other device to monitor their own cardiac rehab and then report their results back to the doctors. And in fact, the CSIRO have completed a large clinical trial of the device before we invested, showing that a real improvement in not only the uptake of cardiac rehabilitation, but also the completion of that, and the clinical outcomes with our device are equivalent to going in and seeing a doctor face to face.
Goodness. And look, how big an opportunity do you think is that the broader e-health space, particularly when you look at a country like Australia, which is so vast, right? And obviously this plugs into the idea of bringing, trying to eradicate the issue of distance and remoteness.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we thought it was a great opportunity, from an investment point of view. Yeah. And also, I guess the base platform initially is applied to cardiology, but we see the ability to roll that out into other areas as well, such as diabetes and respiratory conditions. So, and you're right, because Australia is such a large country with a relatively small population, a number of these patients come from regional areas, and it's very difficult for them to get back routinely back into the hospital to do their rehabilitation.
When you're looking at investments like in Cardihab, how much do you also look to the opportunity to take it offshore, so taking it globally, not being sort of bound by the opportunity of the Australian market?
Yeah, look, it's every investment we do, we look on a global scale, and in terms of health, probably 50% of the world market in health generally is in the USA, and obviously then you're followed by Europe and Japan and other countries. Australia is still a very important market, and in the case of Cardihab, you know, we're working with a group of Queensland cardiologists, so and it's a great way to, if you like, develop, you know, fine-tune the product, and then use Australia, if you like, as a proof of concept market before taking it overseas. And in fact, that's our plan.
It's very exciting, especially for Cardihab. Can I ask, considering, you know, the amount of universities and now the CSIRO that are sort of backing this, and the obvious access you'd have to what they're all doing, what are your investment criteria, and how disciplined do you need to be around it? Because I imagine seeing a lot of these ideas, you go, wow, that sounds amazing, but that might not necessarily obviously translate to a potentially good investment outcome.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we see great science in Australia all the time, and so most of the things we see, you know, they're all good science. The problem comes down to the market and the competition and really the competitive advantage and where these opportunities are going to fit. It's not the case of Cardihab, where we had a very clear defined application, but we also see a lot of solutions looking for problems. So we see great technology and we have to say, well, that's really interesting, but what's the market for this? You know, and by market, I mean really defining that market down tightly. So that's probably the thing we do spend a lot of time on, is figuring out the market, working out the business model, and talking to customers early on, talking to potential acquirers to understand if the opportunity is large enough to justify an investment.
Well, Dr. Peter Devine, it's very, very exciting, and do appreciate you joining us today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, that is it for this week's edition of Business IQ from the entire team here. Thanks for watching.